And joining me this afternoon is Julian Leeser, who's the Shadow Education spokesperson for the Coalition. Welcome.
Thanks, PK. Good to be with you.
Let's start on the Liberal Party's review. We've seen a version. I think it's the second last one from my last source who told me there was one more. But either way, we've got this tabled report. It's quite a read. It's quite the read. It says, for instance, which is, wow, there's a notable absence of reflection from many about the lessons. It also says that you've got an issue with the Chinese Australians, Muslim voters, and that might be even a bigger issue than female voters. It makes for very difficult reading, doesn't it?
Well, Patricia, I haven't read the report. It was a cheap political stunt of the Prime Minister when we've got an economic crisis and when we've got a national security crisis in this country and when we've got war in Iran to be raising these issues at this time at the top of question time. But let me say this. What the Federal Executive decided to do was to call for a 10-point action plan that came out of the review, and I look forward to getting that action plan. But as a Liberal Member of Parliament, I know there were things that we didn't do very well in the last election. Obviously, we had a very bad result, and I've reflected on that in my own community. And we as a coalition need to focus on the needs of families again. And Angus Taylor has got out of the block straight away and raised issues like more choice in childcare to reflect where families are today as an example of the sort of things that we need to focus on for the future. Okay. I am focusing on the future, not on the past. Okay,
but some of those lessons, alienating Muslims, alienating Chinese Australians, do you think they need to be addressed?
We have to do much better with multicultural Australia. There's no doubt about that. And we didn't need the report to tell us that because that was very apparent to us at the last election from the results that we got and also from the observations of members around the country and including members that we lost. So we've got to do better in terms of engaging with those communities in the electorates which we hold today and the electorates which we desire to hold in the future.
Okay. Let's move to the war and what we're seeing, consequences here as well. Starting, though, with the war, the rules-based order. Andrew Hastie says it's all over, it's fantasy. Is he right?
Well, look, the whole issue of international law will be debated for a long period, and it's often a highly contested area. I represent the fourth largest Persian community in the country. As I've said on your program before, Persian Australians have been wanting to see the back of this dreadful dictator, the Ayatollah, for years and years. I've had Persian Australians come to me with phone book size documents filled with people's names who've been disappeared by the regime. 30,000 people have been murdered in recent months, including women who've been killed and then had their wombs ripped out. This is the worst terrorist regime in the world. It commits human rights abuses at home, it exports terror abroad, including to this country, where it's been responsible for several terrorist acts. So I'm celebrating, along with my Persian community, that this particular terrorist has been murdered and that we're seeing what I hope is the end of the regime.
And you want to see regime change? Should the US be pushing for regime change?
Well, I want to see the Iranian people make their own choice about the future. Ultimately, that's a matter for the Iranian people. But we have to remember it's not just the Ayatollah who has gone, it's several of his lieutenants. The IRGC headquarters has been bombed. I mean, I want to congratulate the Americans and the Israelis for their decision here.
Now, today there was a question about a $670,000 government grant given to the Taha Association in Melbourne. It reportedly mourned the death of the Ayatollah. Is that illegal?
Well, I don't think anyone should be mourning the death of the Ayatollah.
No, I agree, but is it illegal?
Well, I think that's a question that the government has to answer, and the government has to answer questions about what they're going to do with this money and can they claw it back, because I think it's pretty disgusting that anyone in Australia is mourning somebody who committed the level of human rights abuses that this man has committed and also the terrorist attacks that occurred in this country.
I understand the point. How can you not?
Yes.
But equally, if we don't have the laws that can stop people mourning the man, what do we do? That's
why I want to see the government have a look and see whether they can do that, and whether
I don't think they can. I can't see how. I mean, you're across the sort of scope of the laws. Can you see how they can?
Well, look, it is a matter for the government to answer. I think the IRGC now is a listed terrorist organisation in this country, and so that potentially might provide an avenue. But I'm not here to provide legal advice on your program tonight.
Might it require more law reform?
Well, I think we need to look at these issues. But I think as a start, we should be taking any government money away from organisations that are mourning the death of a terrorist and we should be looking at what further action can be taken. You know, we need to protect Australians' way of life at this time, particularly in the wake of Bondi, particularly in the wake of the declining social cohesion in this country today.
You're seeing what's happening in the Middle East. It's really escalated quite dramatically. Is that good for the world?
It's good for the world that the Ayatollah is gone. It's good for the world that his regime has been reduced. It is good for the world that the IRGC headquarters were bombed. We have to remember this is a regime that interfered in Lebanon, in Syria,
no doubt,
in Israel,
ongoing effort.
So he is gone, and that is a good thing. And you know, whenever a terrorist regime is removed, that's a positive for the world.
But that it's not removed. There's still an ongoing war. Or is it that one action that the opposition supported, or do you support the ongoing action?
Well, we support a peaceful Middle East, and we support an Iran that is a democratic actor that returns to its rightful place. That is a country like Australia. That's what ultimately the Iranian people in my community want to see. Obviously, you know, these matters have a way to run, but I celebrate the fact that the Ayatollah is gone.
Just finally, why weren't there economic questions from the opposition put to the government? We're in a cost of living crisis. It is the most important issue, according to Australians, in all the surveys. Why not ask about it?
Well, because we're focusing on the other really important issue, which is our national security issues. And the government has effectively outsourced our national security to Jamal Rifi and to the Save the Children Fund, and it hasn't put in place they haven't put in place the temporary exclusion orders that would prevent some of these ISIS supporters returning to Australia. Now, at a time when the Bondi murderers...
They're basing it on ASIO advice. It has been put on one woman.
But the minister doesn't need to have ASIO advice. He can take note of the fact that in our country today, the Bondi terrorists were inspired by ISIS, that there is real concern after 15 people were murdered in cold blood about us bringing sympathisers of this death cult back to this country.
And so you think that ultimately that means that the Prime Minister has got this wrong? Is that how do you?
I do think the Prime Minister and the Minister have got this wrong. We want to see the government control the return to Australia of people from these zones. We don't want to see them back at all, frankly, but if they have to come back, we want to see that the government is in control, and the government is not in control, and that's the point we've been making. Australians are very concerned about the security of the country at this time, and the government is not doing all it can to make it safe. In fact, it's undermining the security of our country.
Many thanks for coming in.
Thanks, PK.
And that's it for Afternoon Briefing for today. We're on ABC iView. You just search for Afternoon Briefing and it is quite easy to find us. Stay with us here on ABC News. Joe O'Brien is up next with today's top stories. I will see you tomorrow.